You don't just need the best grapes to make a great bottle of wine, you also need a fine cork. You might not have realized it, but cork really does grow on trees, and most of those trees are here in Portugal. These men hack the bark from the cork oak trees with hatchets. This is what will be used to make the corks. It looks like a rough process, but these guys are specialist debarkers and are not harming the trees. It'll take 9 years for the bark to grow thick enough to be cut again, but with the care they're taking removing it, they'll be able to harvest it many times over the 150-year life of each tree. There are around 2 million trees in this forest alone, and as they provide 20 kilos of bark each, huge amounts are collected and brought back to yards like this one. There are 15,000 tons of cork slabs here. First of all, they boil the bark to make it softer and more flexible. It's moved around the factory on large pallets. This one's loaded with over 1,300 kilos. After it's been washed, the bark goes back out into the yard for around half a year, so it can absorb moisture from the air. About 6 months later, it's brought back indoors, where it's cut into strips by a circular saw. The strips go straight to these workers, who punch the cork shapes out. The offcuts aren't going to be wasted. We'll find out what happens to them a bit later on. As the corks file along this belt, an automated system checks and sorts them according to how porous they are. Then it's time for a human touch. These women sort them into batches of different qualities. They have to get it right because the best corks can go for 50p each, but the lesser ones cost just a few pence. In the lab, they have to check how the different corks react when they come into contact with liquid. Sometimes mildew builds up on a cork, turning the wine bad. That's when a bottle is referred to as being corked. By testing samples from the batches, they can tell if that's likely and stop it from happening as much as possible. This is where those offcuts have ended up. They're crushed into small pieces and then taken off to a machine where they'll be mixed with adhesive. The mixture is then heated and pressed to form these 2-meter corks. The humble offcuts are actually going to be used for some of the finest wine of all, champagne. After the 2-meter corks are cut down to size, 2 discs are glued on top. The champagne corks won't get their recognizable shape until they're actually put into the bottle. At the posher end of the line, the best corks are labelled and sorted into bags. ready to make their way to vineyards, into a bottle, and onto a corkscrew at a dinner party near you.